What's up, my 11 YouTube friends? Well, I hope you don't get sick of me in the next couple days, because I'm going to post up a bunch of videos, just boom, 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 like that, of different steps of assembly of the engine for Project Cooter, for putting the chain case back in Project Cooter. I've never really done, I've always said I didn't think I was much of a teacher, so I always just do kind of progress videos and not exactly teaching videos, because there's a lot of them out there. There's quite a few guys have done teaching how-to videos. Tom Streeter's Garage is one of them. Nutter Speed Shop's another one of them. Alaskan Pro XR, Garrett Roberts, another one. Those guys are great guys. I've learned a lot from them. So, but a lot of you asked, you know, hey, do some videos of putting the bottom end together, give some specifics on torques and how to and what you do. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you what I do, at least, right or wrong. It's the way I've done it for a long time, and I've built a lot of engines, and as far as I know, they're all still running. I've had issues with them, but usually it was more of a tuning, running pipes and trying to run on the ragged edge of running lean, and sometimes you'll lose a piston doing that, and I've done it. But anyways, got a couple gasket sets here. There's a top end kit, and here's a full rebuild kit. So you got your crank seals, and you got a bunch of gaskets for your water pump and stuff. I'd buy this all day long instead of just buying a top end kit. This is all they had available one time when I was trying to get gaskets, and so I just bought a top end kit because I actually had the crank seals. But in this kit, you'll actually get your water pump gaskets and some other gaskets in the full kit, and it's like $10 more. So this is the better kit to buy. And I get all my stuff, like I said, through HPE, Lake Elmo, Minnesota. Full name is High Performance Engineering, and I got a great email from, I mentioned them in a video here a few weeks ago, and Andy, one of the ladies that works there, sent me an email that morning that one of you guys that watched the video actually sent them an email looking for something and said they heard about them on Todd Klein's YouTube video the night before, and so they were very appreciative that I let people know where I get my stuff from, because like I said, HP, I love it. I use them all the time. Like I said, High Performance Engineering is the full name of them. You can find it online. They have a great website. But anyways, let's get to the nitty gritty here. First, I'm gonna put some 3-bond onto the case. And this case was horrible. Whoever was in here last time, they thought more of this, the better. These are two very accurate machine surfaces. Very flat, very precisely machined, and it's aluminum. It takes very little of this. I mean, all you're doing is putting a skim coat. I had to go down with a tap and tap the stuff out of the holes here, because when they push their bolts through, they push so much down in the bottom of the threads. I didn't even know if I'd get an accurate torque on my bolts anymore. So I spent probably an hour just digging 3-bond out of this case and scraping it off the edge. I mean, it was everywhere. But let's get some 3-bond on the case. Let's get the crank back in. Let's get her torqued down, because this video is all about putting the crank back into Project Cooter's engine here. And we just smear this around on the flat surfaces. Like I said, doesn't take a lot. These machined surfaces are very nice surfaces. All right, 3-bond is on. Let's set that over here. It won't take long to get the crank sitting in here. And I stood this crank up on end, and I put injector oil into all the bearings and rotated them nice. I always like to have a lot of oil in them bearings when I'm putting this all back together. Little white lithium. Doesn't take a ton, just a little bit, so on that first fire up, your seal has a little bit of lubrication on it. Just a little bit around on it. You'll notice there's two sides to the seal too. The side with the lip faces into your engine. Some people set this into the bottom half of the case. I like to put the top half of the case. You can see I got it sitting on these boards here, sitting on the studs. That way you kind of drop the rods right down in the holes here. And this is the way I prefer to do it. And you just rotate your bearings so all the pins are facing upwards, and then I'll rotate them down into the little spot that they sit in the case here. Just make sure your pins are upwards when you set this in there. Otherwise, it will go down. It will. But your pins are going to get pushed into your bearing, and then your bearing is not going to be pinned in place anymore. And I've actually seen some of the newer bearings now, they don't have pins. They really rely on the case to put enough pressure on these bearings to keep the bearing from rotating. But when you have the pins in the bearing cages like this, you got to make sure that they're into that slot that's in your case. All right, crank is in. It's looking gorgeous. I'm loving it. And right now, I am going to set the other half on. Just make sure everything's clean and dry here. And I'm just going to give the oil pump drive here just a little squirt of oil here. I like putting oil on everything when I'm putting these things together. Doesn't hurt. It burns out. It'll come out the exhaust eventually. You shouldn't have to use a hammer at this point at all for any of this. If it ain't setting down on here, something's not correct at all. And I just give the crank just that slight little turn there to make sure everything's engaged into that oil pump and stuff too. So, see that? Everything's sitting flat. Now we can put the bolts in. God, this engine, when I took it apart, had some really nice bolts in it too. All of them still have all the zinc on them and stuff, and nice looking bolts. Wish this thing could go in the sled upside down so you can see all these pretty bolts. Seems like all the bolts on the top side are all rusty and shitty looking. I'm just going to give them all a little twist in by hand quick, just so I know the first couple threads are engaged. This is what I do. You don't have to do it like this, but this is how I do it. I just run them down with this thing, but I put it in once, and I just go real slow. It's a lot of bolt here. I run them down with this thing. And I run them down like how the torque pattern would be, where you start in the center of your motor and work your way out. Pattern's basically you start in the center and you're working your way out to the end. So you're torquing the center of your case down and you're working that out instead of torquing here and trying to work it in. You know, you could get this effect going with it. That's exaggerated, but you always want to try and torque the center outwards like that. And heads are crisscross, cylinders are crisscross, corner to corner and stuff too. I think I forgot a socket. Never fails every single time I do this. I gotta go to the toolbox and get a socket. I tell you, God, one of these days I think I'd learn. All right, torquing time. 14 foot-pounds I'm gonna start off with, and then I'm going to go up to 18, and then these end ones are 24, 26. How many is that so far? Anybody counting? I'm not. All right, that's our first set of torques. Now we're gonna go up to 18. Oh, wrong socket. My bad. Now we're gonna go up to 20, 25 we'll go to on these two outer ones. These other small little guys, I just put a small ratchet on them and just give them a snug. And I gotta get a ratchet because I forgot my ratchet. Back and forth, back and forth. I'm sure there's a torque on these things, but that's what I've always done with them. Right there. All right, let's flip it over. Oh my goodness. Usually I throw the motor mounts on when it's upside down like that too, because I'm usually done on the bottom, so I'll stick the motor mounts on, but I did not. Putting oil on these crank bearings for that initial startup, and just for why it's sitting here. And when this thing does start for the first time, there's gonna be plenty of oil in there. I get it on the end of those rod bearings too. But I don't foresee this motor running much this summer. It's gonna get a first couple startups, and it's gonna be sitting and it's gonna get shipped and it's heading out. So I just wanna make sure there's plenty of oil in this bottom end for the summer to be sitting. All right, let's put the stator on. So on these XCR SPs with the triple pipes, you line up this smaller mark right here with the timing mark on the case. And I stuck in all the screws. I brought them in with a number 3 screwdriver. Now, this is how I do it. You can tighten them however you want. I always use this little impact driver to give the screws a nice little snug. I've never had one come loose. Use whatever you want. That's what I've always done. Right there is what I've done. So I'm gonna save on putting the flywheel on, because I wanna have the cylinders, the pistons and the head, or sorry, pistons first, the cylinders and the heads on. That way I can shove a rope down the cylinder to hold it in place and put the torque on this nut out here for the flywheel. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like I said, there's gonna be a series of builds here of this engine. I'm gonna try and cover everything I do on how to assemble one of these engines. Please follow along. It'll be a multi-series of videos coming up in the next few days of the different steps of building this engine. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for all the views. Thanks for all the comments. Appreciate it very much.